What is good, YouTube? This is Quinn Wade Basketball Analysis coming to you with this Charlotte Hornet video. Now, they was in a position to make the playoffs last year because they was in a play-in tournament. They ultimately came up short. This year, they had expectations to build upon that and become a playoff team, which we don't know because the play-in tournament over, which they are in the play-in bracket right now. So we don't really know if they're going to make it or not until the play-in tournament is over. But when you look at this roster, they have been building this team for a couple years now. They went through a lot of different changes with this roster up until this point. Clearly, the Kimba team made the playoffs for a couple years, never really made a championship run or a deep playoff run. So they let Kimba go to Boston. Never was able to win or get over the hump in Boston. And now we don't know where his career is going to be in New York. Now we look at the fact that they had a lottery pick. I was a person that wasn't a big fan of LaMelo Ball going into the draft. He didn't go number one. He didn't go number two. But when I look at LaMelo Ball at this point, he has become an all-star, even though it was reserve. He has become Rookie of the Year that year, too. He hasn't been able to lead this team to a playoff team just yet. But he has lived up to being a all-star caliber guy since he made the all-star team this season, which I seen them in Cleveland, so I know for sure that he made it. But what I will say about this Charlotte team is they play hard before LaMelo Ball, after LaMelo Ball, and even though he is their lone all-star, he is the franchise guy possibly that they thought and hoped that he could be. I was one of the guys that said if you want to swing for the fences, LaMelo Ball has potential even in that draft, even before that draft, to be a possible, franchise changer. We don't really know what he will be yet, if he will become a guy that can take this team further than ever. But he's going to need help. He's going to need a better roster. He's going to need better health, the players to contribute to that. They haven't drafted well in Hornets history, especially in consecutive drafts, especially throughout, all these generations of the Hornets and the Bobcat teams that existed. That has been an Achilles heel to me of why this team hasn't really had the success. I do know that they're a small market team, so the cash ain't there, the appeal ain't there. A lot of people ain't running to Charlotte. A lot of people ain't really asking or requesting trades to go to Charlotte really ever in the history of the franchise. And they have to get their players through the draft. That's why it's essential and important for them, to be able to build this team that way, especially when you look at the fact that this roster is primarily built off guys that they have drafted. Now, when you look at their key players at this point, especially the last 2 years, they added Terry Rozier. He added the firepower and the scoring. They signed him in free agency, took a gamble on him, gave him an extension this year. Hasn't really worked out the way that they thought when they signed him first, but his numbers have been better than in Boston, but he hasn't had the success that Boston has had in Charlotte. When you look at the fact that they added Gordon Hayward, he hasn't been able to stay healthy. We knew that was a red flag when they offered him the contract and he ultimately took it. He hasn't been that Gordon Hayward that they wanted and needed at all throughout his whole career in Charlotte. He's definitely a guy that they will move on from. You don't need a guy that's not going to help you win or contribute or can't even stay healthy for half the season. That's one of the main reasons why they haven't made the playoffs. It's a reason why they definitely will be getting rid of him at this point. He's older. He doesn't fit the timeline of the direction that these players are going on this current roster. And if he's not going to stay healthy, he's not going to be able to help you contribute to winning, then why do you need him on his roster? I understand why they wanted him on the roster, but after the last 2 years, after they gave him the contract, it's clear that he's not the guy that they needed. He's not the guy that's going to help them get over the hump, and they need to get rid of him. Honestly, too, when you look at the fact of the Hornets trying to become a legitimate team in the NBA, especially in the future with LaMelo Ball, who has established himself a little bit in the league now, it's really, really tough, honestly, to see how they're going to get, you know, to that point. If you don't have enough scoring, you don't have enough shooting, the team never puts the necessary talent around you. The team honestly doesn't draft well, like I said before. It's hard to be invested in a culture that doesn't know how to win. And even now, they still have that problem. It's fixable, it's curable, but reality, it may not happen either. So when I look at this team, they have been better than I thought the last 2 seasons. But they also haven't made the playoffs just yet. And we'll see if they can reach that goal. It's tough, it's hard, but the Hornets, it's just a frustrating franchise to be a fan of, honestly. Like, this team is just frustrating to get around. It's frustrating to really want to be a part of this. But what I will say is this: Miles Bridges, his contract is up for extension. He didn't get one at the start of the season. He's still eligible to get one. This was a make it or take it season where he can get the extension early, or he can bet on himself and earn more money and show that he's worth more money, which he has shown, honestly, in my opinion, before this season. And he will, to me, get the contract at this point. Gordon Hayward will help facilitate that, allowing them to be able to give Miles Bridges the money that he feel like he's worth and he deserves at this point after this season. I still do have a problem with giving Miles Bridges the extension because him and LaMelo Ball the last 2 years haven't been able to get it done. Honestly, as a duo, as an entire team, this roster hasn't been able to get it done. Now, you look at the fact that this team currently, especially when they make some more moves off season or next year or in the future, it's still hard to see this team being a legitimate team in the East. And that's why I brought up the Kemba problem. Kemba loved being in Charlotte. He enjoyed being in Charlotte. He made a name, all NBA, all star. Best seasons was honestly in Charlotte. But he never could get that success that he wanted team-wise in Charlotte. And the way this team is pacing, it looks like it could happen again. We don't know because, like I said, a lot of these guys not even 25 or above. But they also shown that with the current talent that they have and the fact that they haven't put the necessary talent around them to win, it just puts them in a tough situation, even going forward, because once you start locking these guys into extensions and they already proven that they're not good enough to be a championship team, just like every other Charlotte team that's been put together, it do make you wonder what this future will be, with this team. And they hit it right, honestly, with LaMelo Ball so far, but, we have to see what they do with the rest of this roster. Like, when I look at a lot of the stuff they have done, it seems like they're headed in that no man, nowhere land where they can be a play-in to playoff team at the bottom, and that's it. And you know what happens with that? They blow it up and rebuild. But I will give them credit on, trying to go out a little bit more with this current GM and ownership. They made more trades. They offer more money, which was a problem for a lot of people in Charlotte. A lot of people feel like they wasn't offering money. They wasn't making the moves that was necessary to facilitate winning. And they made those moves with Rozier and Gordon Hayward, and it hasn't worked out these 2 years. And it hasn't worked out at all under the Rozier contract since he's been in Charlotte. So I still have the same concerns with this organization, with the team future, and even with the youth. Like, honestly, they already been still drafting a bunch of buses then and now. So that hasn't really changed. in my honest opinion. Um, we'll see. This year and last year, they wasn't really getting high draft picks either because they won more games than they really wanted to. And then they didn't want to rebuild, but they wasn't good enough to make the playoffs. That's why they was in the play-in. And then that don't really help you get a player that can help you contribute, right away. So they're going to have to figure out, do they want to go with LaMelo and Miles Bridges as their duo? Can that be an all-star duo? Can that be, a legitimate duo that can get you far in the NBA? Or will that duo, once they give Miles Bridges the extension and get rid of Gordon Hayward, will that duo get you anywhere? Which it looks like it won't at this point. But in my personal opinion, I don't really like the direction of this organization. I don't really like what they have done when it comes to drafting outside LaMelo Ball, who everybody honestly agreed that he had upside to be, an all-star. And he was the third pick. So, he has become an all-star before James Wiseman, Anthony Edwards. So, I guess you'll take that at this point. But I still have problems with his roster. LaMelo Ball looks like an obvious rookie extension guy at this point. But other than that, I'm more of a out on Miles Bridges as a superstar. Still a little iffy on LaMelo Ball changing the culture of this team to a championship caliber team because you still need the teammates. And if you're not going to be able to get them in free agency, you're not going to draft right, which they still haven't at this point. You're going to be stuck in making a little bit of a mediocre run at best, and it's back to honestly rebuilding. But it's really tough for them to get over this hump. I mean, if you're not bad enough to get a lottery pick, and even if you do, you still got to hit on it, which they haven't drafted well in franchise history. It's just sad for the Charlotte Hornet fans. But to me, I do think they should go younger. Honestly, like getting rid of Rozier. I was a person that told my girlfriend Destiny I wouldn't give Terry Rozier an extension. They did it anyway. They got rid of Malik Monk, who was a guy that people thought had all-star upside, never came close to living up to the hype in Charlotte or LA. Neither has James Bouknight at this point. And they regretting, honestly, that Terry Rozier contract. So I don't really know what move there is to make. They do need a center to make them a better defensive team, to make them a better rebounding team. They still do need better shooters on the perimeter. They got switchable, movable, hybrid guys on this roster. They play hard, they play fast, they play fun, but that's not how you win championships. That's not how you get it done. You have to be elite at something. They're not an elite offensive team. They're not nowhere near elite defensively. And they're a little stagnant, confusing, crazy. And that's a recipe for failure, which they have been in the NBA. But, honestly, when you look at this roster, I have problems with the future of Charlotte. But that's my honest opinion. Get rid of Gordon Hayward. I would have never gave Terry Rozier that extension. And they regret both of them, honestly, right now. But they do know what Miles Bridges and LaMelo can do. Maybe they trade those contracts away for players in the draft or veterans that fit that duo better and can stay healthier to help them contribute to winning. This team is borderline playoffs. So maybe getting guys that can fit better, play better with the team that they're building, whether it's younger or veterans, that'd be the ideal thing, especially when these guys haven't really fit or play well with this roster and can't stay healthy either, so you don't need a player that's not going to be able to contribute on the court. It makes more sense to go in a different direction. And I'm still kind of, like I said before, out on giving Miles Bridges the extension. But when you look at what Charlotte is right now, you kind of rather keep the asset of Miles Bridges than lose him for nothing, which honestly they might have to do anyway. I mean, they really wouldn't in a rush to give him an extension. That's why you can get it this offseason. But, I think that could be possibly a mistake too, honestly, as we can see with this roster. But maybe that duo can become a playoff duo. But to me, that's not a bright or amazing future. And that'd be more of a Kimba Bobcats problem of we can become a mediocre to okay team and then we back to the rebuild. But getting LaMelo Ball was a start, going in the right direction. But they still have to do better in the draft. They still do have to be risky and gambly on taking chances on players. And I don't think that definitely should stop at this point. It's just clear that where this roster was 3 years ago, they're in a better space right now than they was 3 years ago. But if they want to get further than they ever did with LaMelo Ball, they're going in the wrong direction now. But, we'll see what happens 2 to 3 years from now. But the future don't look amazing to me in Charlotte. But a couple trades, a couple moves, a couple gambles and a couple risks, maybe this all could be different. Like I said, they right there the last 2 years of being a playoff team, but they want to be more than that. And Charlotte wants more than that too from the Hornets, and they deserve it. They've been loyal fans. They have fun. They support their team, and they just been heartbroken year after year. And on top of that, this team is on pace to be heartbroken again, as they're not even a playoff team. They're going to be fighting in the play-in like last year. So instead of building the progress and going forward and trying to get better and trying to not go backwards, they went backwards and got stagnant and went nowhere, which is a problem and why they should get rid of these guys that haven't helped them get anywhere so they can get to their goal and hopefully accomplish it and achieve more than they did in the past. And that's all I got to say. Quinn Wade, basketball analysis, signing out. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of y'all day. We'll see what Charlotte do. They got it right with LaMelo. We'll see if they can get it right with the roster. We'll see if they can get it right with their future. Right now, I'm not liking it. I'm not feeling it like everybody else in Charlotte, most likely. But this is reality, and they're on pace to be stuck, stagnant, and go nowhere like they've been in the entire franchise. And hopefully they can break the cycle of stupidity and idiocracy and fakeness and realize that the way they've been doing it ain't working. Change the philosophy, change some personnel, change some people, and that can change the culture. And you need new people to change culture. If not, it's going to be the same culture. So getting rid of the old culture, is a start to going into the direction that they want to be in. We'll see if they get there. We'll see if they do it. And honestly, see y'all later. Enjoy the day. Enjoy your night. Quinn Wade Basketball Analysis signing out.